And we'll get to the questions, which I haven't looked at. I think that's about it. Oh, Foghorn and notable miscreant and degenerate Matt Lloyd and I opened up the Star Citizen game a couple weeks ago. We've got about 30 people on board now. We're still looking for people who can do things like want to, run the Justice Department. If you don't want to play in a game and go out in space and shoot things up, if you think the idea of running part of a government that was committed to these principles, then you might find some fun with that. We've been writing memos back and forth as if from the actual positions. I have a fictional character who's the president of this republic, and I write memos to the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of State and so on and so forth. And we treat it as if it's real. That's the entire objective, is trying to build America in space, the America that should be. And I know I've said this before, but it bears repeating mostly for my own benefit. It is astonishing. It was astonishing to me and quite shocking that when I was putting together the government structure with Matt and with known miscreant Matt and Foghorn, Viper check here. It was astonishing to me how easy it was to want to buy citizens by giving stuff away. It was just again and again and again. Well, we could get people if we do this. We could recruit people if we do this. And then it's just a little, I was like, what are you talking about? Just up for a discussion. So you know what the political part of this whole game idea is. Game theory is an interesting term for it. So we asked ourselves, well, if we're going to recruit people, how? And there are people who are players who don't have a lot of money, but they want all the good gear. And if I can get some funding behind this thing, we can afford to get the good gear. So how do we make that work? And then I thought, could I justify expenditures on subsidies? Could I justify a government subsidy for a shipping concern, let's say a private company, into an area that was in the interest of our government to develop, but there was not enough commercial activity there to make it commercially viable? Is that something I could do, or we could do, and maintain our principles? And it's a thin line. A thin line. But I think we came to the decision that you could probably justify that one. Because first of all, it's not a gift, it's a loan. It's a fairly risky loan, but it is money that would be paid to an individual private company to do shipping or whatever the case may be. We would provide a subsidy in exchange for a percentage of the revenues, and if the company fails, then the government loses tax money. But on the other hand, there's a lot to be said for the idea of striking a spark. We're not determining winners and losers. We're not interfering with the actual mechanics of the market. We're saying we'd like to have a market here, and there's not enough activity to start a market here. So if we put down the seed corn, or if we basically pour some lighter fluid on this little smoldering ember, can it grow to the point where it's actually good for everybody? And I think you probably can make the case for that, since it is a loan. So we are, Karsten Mueller there just said, it sounds like we're struggling with the same thing the Founding Fathers did. This is exactly what we're doing, and this is exactly why we're doing it. This is exactly why we're doing it. So these are interesting questions, and this is something I know I've said a million times, but it's one of the more important things that I say. We cannot expect to maintain a political party or a political movement like conservatism if all we do is show people parchment and ink and quills and muskets and flags with snakes on them and knee breeches and all the rest of it. No matter how much we may revere those people, and we do, you cannot tell people who don't know anything about this that their future lies 250 years behind them. You can't do it. So you have to put it in the future. You have to make it something people can relate to today. T.G. Gecko just said, how are you collecting taxes? That's a great question. We knocked it around a little bit, and I said, first of all, I think that essentially, since we can't track revenues and we don't want to, philosophically, it's disgusting. We would treat taxes essentially as a system, as a dues, basically. If you're a citizen of the Republic, you're provided with a number of services, including military protection, diplomatic protection. You're provided with a number of assets. And in exchange for this, we have to have some kind of money to run this government, run the military, run this small government, this ideal government. So we decided that the only way you could do it was, we're not going to track income. We can't. There is an in-game economy that's coming. There will be people making in-game money, and the more successful they are, the more money they're going to make. And there are previous examples of this in a game called Eve and other games and so on, space games. So there's going to be an actual economy, and we can't and don't want to figure out what this person's income is, so we're simply going to make it a flat dollar amount. Game dollars. We're not taking anybody's real money. And that's the best we could come up with. And I said it needs to be constitutionally limited to no more than 10% of anyone or any company's income. That's the constitutional limit, is 10%, never any higher. And if somebody has a better idea, I will be happy to listen to it. We could not enforce a sales tax. Otherwise, I think we would have done that. But basically, we just say, hey, you're a citizen. Great. You now have these benefits of belonging to a country. You're not just a person out there floating around by yourself. You now are part of a nation. You have the same kind of protections that an American citizen has. Imagine traveling the world if you didn't have a country. If you had no passport and you didn't belong to any country. There are a lot of advantages to being an American, and one of them is live in a country where I'm not too terribly concerned about invasion or that kind of thing. And the reason for that is because millions, hundreds of millions of people have made sacrifices and paid taxes and given their lives and so on to basically protect each other. And that is necessary. So the hard part is deciding, where does that stop and this giant state begin? Where's the line? And that's why this is so interesting to me. Aesops just asked, by the way, I think we had a little adventure with Aesop last night, and 5 or 6 other people did a little training exercise. And I think he was flying the dust-off helicopter. The question he asks is a great question. He says, do people have to be inside the game to be part of the government? And the answer is no. If the idea of creating a government interests you, and we have a number of departments that are vacant, we'd love to have you. Strata Loungers would be perfect for this. So if you have any real-world experience in this, we'd love to have you. If you go to Aurora Republic, one word, Aurora, AURORA, REPUBLIC, aurorarepublic.space, you'll see the work we put into this, and you'll see the way we structured this government, and you're going to see a lot of positions that are vacant. And if it turns out that it's something you want to do, then if you don't want to sign up with the game, you don't have to pay any money to sign up with the game, I don't think. But if you want to be part of it, just send an email that says Star Citizen to info@billwhittle.com, and we will get you hooked up, because we need more real-world people. We have our treasury is managed by a known miscreant and degenerate who nevertheless has a significant amount of background in the financial sector. And we are hoping that kind of real-world experience, if we can get real business people running this simulation, we should be able to do better than people who don't have experts. That's the whole theory anyway. That's the way we're training, and we're taking the training seriously. And yesterday was, I think, the 3rd time we did a cooperative mission. The radio calls were better, but they're still not perfect. But we had, just to give you an idea of how this thing works, I don't mean how the game works, but how the entire political idea of it works. We had, I think, 6 of us last night on a quick little mission. Known miscreant and degenerate Matt Lloyd and I were flying air cover in fighter aircraft, and we had a team of 3 people going aboard, and Aesops was flying the dropship. So we land on this station, drop the guys off. They're going to go and find these intelligence assets inside the structure, and we're going to stand outside here, fly outside here, and defend them. Keep anybody who comes in away from them during the time it takes them to do this mission. And when that is over, we pick them up and we get the hell out of there. So what's interesting is when strangers jumped into that area where we were at a little station called Kovalex. And we can't control whether or not other players come into where we are. This is the beauty of it. This is why it's so interesting to me and why it works, I think. We have no control over it. But the second that unknown ships came into that system, I had a preset text announcement, because we're talking to each other over a third-party radio system, chat system. So all of us are talking to each other through Foghorn, who was mission director, military mission director, Mad Dog. So he was coordinating the ground team and the aerospace team. But it was possible for me to send a text out that would be read by anybody who's in that area, and so I did. And I just sent a text that said something to the effect of, this is Eagle One of VF1 from the Aurora Republic. We have personnel on and above the station. We will not fire unless fired upon. And the reaction from 3 or 4 gamers, players who don't know anything about me, anything about this idea, nothing, was just this immediate kind of, okay, well, we don't want any trouble. You guys sound like it, and offers to enlist, because it sounded professional, sounded grown up, sounded interesting. So it's working. It's just taken longer than I thought. All right, so